Today we are working on section 3.4, parallel lines and transversals. Our objective is to find congruent angles formed when a transversal cuts parallel lines. This lesson is highly related to what we did yesterday. So let's review what we did yesterday. Describe the relationship between the angles. All right, we've got four options on these. Corresponding, alternate interior, alternate exterior, and same side interior. David, what do you think for number one?
Corresponding.
I would agree. Angles 1 and 5 are corresponding. Number two, we've got angles 2 and 7. Jordan. Alternate exterior, yes. Remember, we are not abbreviating these. Number 3, angles 3 and 6. Somebody new. John? Alternate interior, very good. Number 4, angles 8 and 4. Connor?
I got corresponding.
Corresponding, I would agree with that. All right, on number 5, we've got angles 1 and 8. Jaden? Alternate exterior, very good. Okay, and then on number 6, we have angles 3 and 5. Julian? Same side interior, very good. Today, we are still going to have to be able to identify these relationships, but we're going to learn a little bit more about what these relationships mean if we have parallel lines. First, let's review parallel lines. Parallel lines are lines that lie in the same plane, and never intersect. In the diagram, we indicate that the lines are parallel using those little triangles, which you have this diagram in your notes. Okay, those triangles are how we know for sure that those lines are parallel. We cannot assume it if those triangles are not there.
So is it mandatory to have those triangles there?
Yeah, if those triangles were not there, we could not say that those are parallel lines, unless we were told in the directions or something. All right, I know I'm making a big deal about this, but that's because today it matters. Angle pairs. Generally speaking, and your teacher may disagree, the angle pair relationships do not tell us a whole lot of extra information about the angles unless the lines being intersected by the transversal are parallel. So that's what goes on that big line. Unless the lines being intersected by the transversal are parallel. Do we all see where this fits into our notes? If the lines being intersected by the transversal are parallel, then those angle pair relationships that we learned yesterday are packed with information. Let's talk about it. The first one is the corresponding angle postulate. If two parallel lines are cut by a transversal, then the corresponding angles are Well, what do we think? We talked about what they were yesterday, so let's look at some angle pairs and see what we think might be true. What do you think might be true about these angles at A?
So method step first synthesis the difference.
Again, the corresponding angles postulate states, if two parallel lines are cut by a transversal, then the corresponding angles are congruent. Let's go on to alternate interior angles theorem. So you've got another box for this with the diagram. The alternate interior angles theorem states, if two parallel lines are cut by a transversal, then the alternate interior angles are congruent. That is the theorem. Which means you should all be writing. And once again, if we look at the diagram, it should seem obvious that these angles at B and at A appear to have the same measure. The alternate exterior angles theorem states that if two parallel lines are cut by a transversal, then the alternate exterior angles are congruent. So again, we could observe, for example, angle A, those alternate exterior angles would be the same measure. They are congruent. On to the next one. If two parallel lines are cut by a transversal, then the same side interior angles are... Well, if we look at the diagram, I hope we can recognize that they are not congruent, right? If we look at angle A and angle A, one is much smaller than the other. Okay, so there is a word other than not congruent that will go here. But I'll let you get this copied down before we reveal what that word is. You know it? What is it? No. But that is a good guess. At least it's a word from geometry. Anybody else have a guess?
Who said it's not congruent?
They're not congruent. It's a different relationship we learned. It's down at the bottom. If two parallel lines are cut by a transversal, same side interior angles are supplementary. Supplementary. So most of our angle pair relationships, if we have parallel lines, those angles are congruent, except same side interior angles are supplementary instead of congruent. Now this one's already answered for you, but you do need to copy it down into your notes.
Is it the one that says picture and solution?
It is the one that says picture and solution. Here's your picture. Here's the solution. Once you get it copied down, we'll talk about how they came up with that solution. All right, so they told us the solution. The measure of angle 1 is 110 degrees. Remember that this 1 down here, if it does not have a degree symbol, it is just a way to name the angle. It is not giving us a measure. So, how do you think they came up with that solution? What information here is important? What information from our picture could lead us to such a solution? First, we have to notice that the lines are parallel. If we don't have that, there's no hope for us getting this solution. Next, angle A. What's the relationship between these two angles out of our 4 angle relationships? They are corresponding. What do we know about corresponding angles if our lines are parallel? They are congruent. So we notice the lines are parallel. We notice we have corresponding angles. We know from that postulate that corresponding angles on parallel lines are congruent. So therefore, the measure of angle 1 has to be the same. These are the thought processes we need to have. They should be coming automatic so that they don't take so long for us to talk through. More practice. These ones are already printed there for you. I'll give you a moment to answer them before I call on people to tell me what they came up with. All right, Jakai, what did you get for the measure of angle 3? 70. What was the relationship between those two angles? They are congruent because one of our relationships from yesterday. You got 4 options. They are corresponding, so therefore they are congruent because those lines are parallel. Mariah, what did we get for the measure of angle 4? 141 degrees, I would agree. Again, these angles are corresponding on parallel lines. Keon, the last one. 90 degrees. Again, they're corresponding, and we know that right angles have a measure of 90 degrees. On number 4, Shelby, what did you get for the measure of angle 3? 59 degrees. Wonderful. Those are alternate interior angles. So they are congruent because we have parallel lines. Sydney, what did you get for the measure of angle 4 on number 5? 110. Good. Those are alternate exterior angles. So those are congruent. All right, Martez, what do you think about number 6? So it's actually angle 5 on number 6. Very good. The measure of angle 5 is equal to 167 degrees. Those are also alternate interior angles. When we move on to numbers 7, 8, and 9, what's the relationship between the angles on number 7? Same side interior. So are they congruent? No. Same side interior angles are supplementary. Okay, so if you put that the measure of angle 3 is equal to 135 on number 7, you are incorrect. Honesty, what should we get for the measure of angle 3? We should get the measure of angle 3 is equal to 45 degrees. Wonderful. Subtract 135 from 180. That's how we get 45. On number 8, Josh, what did you get? 90 degrees. What's the relationship between those two angles? Corresponding. So they are congruent. Finally, on number 9. IKEA, what did you get? The measure of angle 5 is 145 degrees. Those are same side interior, so they are supplementary. Again, we have to look out for the fact that we have to have parallel lines to be able to apply any of this information. And then we also have to pay attention to which relationship it is that we're using. So we already know either our angles will be congruent or they will be supplementary. On number 10, what is the relationship between the two angles that are marked? Anaya? What's the relationship between those? They are corresponding. And if we have corresponding angles on parallel lines, are they congruent or supplementary? Congruent. If they're congruent, that means we can set them equal to each other. So we can set these equal to each other because they are congruent. Then we just have to solve it. John, how would we solve it?
Subtract 5 from 65.
We're already subtracting 5.
Oh, yeah, never mind. Can I just say the answer?
No, I want to know how to solve it.
Well, I did mine differently than how you do yours. I just did pencil math.
Mental math's not going to work because I cannot see inside your brain.
I know.
So instead of subtracting 5 here, I would want to add 5 to both sides. 7x equals 70. What's the opposite of multiplication?
Division.
Thank you, John. We would divide by 7, and so John, you came up with x equals 10. Yes, I want to see your work. I want to see your steps. All right, Kara, on number 11, what is the relationship between those angles? From our 4 options. Same side interior. Wonderful. Cade, what do we know about same side interior angles?
They're supplementary.
They are supplementary. So Ken, that means that I can add these and set them equal to what?
180.
180. X minus 11 plus 142 equals 180. When we combine like terms, we end up with x plus what? 131 equals 180, and then what? Subtract 131 from both sides. What did you get for x? 49. Wonderful. That will wrap up section 3.4.